This is the same government, the same health minister who started out by saying, every Quebecer will have access to a family doctor. That's our promise. He then went to every Quebecer will have access to a healthcare professional of some sort. Then said every Quebecer will have access to a clinic somewhere. Then he said, we'll remove the doctors for patients who are healthy and give it to those who are vulnerable. Then he went and said, you know what? I'm going to cut their salary if they don't meet my objectives. This is all political posturing. The government has no idea how to actually give services to Quebecers. And when it has expert groups, when it has experts coming out mandated by the government to tell them what to do, they look the other way. They completely ignore their work and they say, no, I've got the solution here. I trust the experts way more than I trust Christian Dubé on this, especially given that he's changed his mind about as often as he's changed his shirt.
That's Andre Fortin, Liberal MNA. Of course, he's their health critic as well. Hard to argue with his assessment of what's happened so far in the health department. And he's referring to the latest situation today where Christian Dubé came out and talked about his last piece of the healthcare puzzle, which is making sure that every citizen here has access to either that, a clinic, a doctor, whatever. James Mennie, Montreal Gazette's on the line. Jim, what do you make of what Andre Fortin had to say?
Well, I think it's great. It's great to hear him tap dancing on Dubé's forehead because of the absolutely abysmal job this guy has done in terms of trying to improve healthcare to Quebecers. I think actually we're at the point. You saw that sliding scale. I think we're actually at the point now where the CAQ is going to start promising all Quebecers will have access to the smell of hospital disinfectant and some complimentary tongue depressors. But apart from that, we ain't going no place. I don't have a family doctor. I don't have access. And you know what? They don't have a clue. Let's face it. I mean, there's plenty of, and we've done this even this week, talking about other dossiers that have been on. They're completely clueless. They don't know what to do. So what's Legault going to do? What does Francois Legault really know how to do? He knows how to pick a fight. So he's going to pick a fight with the doctors. And the suggestion in this proposed legislation is that these doctors are, a bunch of gold-bricking good-for-nothings, and they should be working harder. And so we are going to base their pay on the number of patients they have and the amount of services they provide collectively. I have no idea how that formula is going to work, Aaron. But what I can tell you is that I would, really suspect that any doctor who's at the point in his or her life where they can just pull up stakes, move someplace else, make money, and not have to deal with one of the most incompetent bureaucracies on the planet, they are going to take it. And guess what? That's not going to increase my access to a doctor or the access of any other Quebecer who is in need of a doctor right now. And as for this color-coded idea that, and how perfectly bureaucratic is that? Well, if you're in the green, if you're healthy, okay, we're going to maybe move your doctor a little over to someone who's in a different color zone who might be a little more vulnerable. Even though any doctor, you have guests on every week who are telling you the essence to any medical procedure is prevention. You don't wait until you get sick. The trick is not to get sick in the first place. However, this does not fall into place with the CAQ's blueprint, I said, making giant air quotes, for healthcare in this province. And honestly, Aaron, I'm really at my wit's end because one day it's the doctors, the next day it's the nurses, the next day it's the equipment, the next day it's hospitals. Things are not getting better. They've been around. These people have been squatting in the National Assembly for nearly 8 years, and things have become demonstrably worse. And my real concern is whoever gets the next government, I don't think it's going to be the CAQ, how long is it going to take just to dig through all the administrative manure that these guys have spread over the healthcare network just to maybe get us to the reset point where we can try to make this work again? It just beggars belief, Aaron. And I hate to say it. For me, the only silver lining is I'm in a position where I can afford private healthcare. But for those in Quebec who can't, who are dumb enough to think, that whole RAMQ thing is supposed to work, I don't envy them.
By the way, to your point, Jim, about some doctors looking at this and simply saying, you know what, I'm not going to bother. You can do a lot better someplace else. I think we also have to factor in the fact that, there are plenty of doctors nearing or at retirement age who will simply decide to give up. Why go through this if you've been, in practice for the last 30 years?
Exactly. But you know what? This isn't even a blip on the radar of people like Christian Dubé or Francois Legault, who in the end, and I will use the politest word I can on air, are bean counters. This is not part of their a conceptual DNA that maybe motivation could be a big driver, so to speak, for providing a better quality of healthcare. And frankly, at this point, given all the other things that don't work, given all the other examples of absolutely egregious incompetence on the part of this government, can you blame any health professional or any other professional simply for shrugging their shoulders and saying, you know what, I don't need this?
So let's move from healthcare. And by the way, I believe we have Andre Fortin coming on just after 4:45 to address this today, because yesterday was about what has been happening. Today, Christian Dubé made that announcement, right? And this is what's going to happen without a whole lot of detail whatsoever. Yeah. I listened to some of the answers, and you kind of have to go, I'm sorry, did I not hear something in there? But that's what it sounded like to me today, Jim. So we'll have Andre Fortin to talk about that. And by the way, isn't it interesting that Christian Dubé, if it's fair to say, has gone from hero to zero since the pandemic until where we are right now?
Absolutely. I mean, but you can't win with the healthcare system, at least the way these guys are running it. I mean, the idea that somehow they were going to turn the ship around by getting up in people's faces, getting up in doctors' faces, turning around and say, you know what, if we do A, B, and C, or we just change these numbers over here, everything's going to be fine. Somewhere, the reality of Quebec healthcare, and I've had some experience with the system over the past few years, it is not some chamber of horrors, okay? But the fact is, it is absolutely groaning under bureaucracy, under paperwork, under a lot of layers of administration that you really get the impression don't need to be there. And in many cases, no matter how well-meaning some people are within the system trying to help you, even they're not entirely sure how the system is going to work by tomorrow, because there's just so many damn moving parts that nobody knows about.
So that's one aspect of it. Then, of course, we come to seniors and what's going on here with respect to how much this is going to cost.
First-term campaign promise, the Maison des Aînés, seniors' residences, because of all the horror stories we've seen about, CHSLDs and where we're going to build these things, they're going to be nice, they'll have air conditioning. I remember Legault, they'll all have air conditioning. Trust me, they will. And, they all have air conditioning. And as far as we can tell from the price tag on these things, those air conditioners are made out of solid platinum. The fact of the matter is an examination of these MDAs, Maison des Aînés, that was done first by Le Devoir, discovered that the most expensive in terms of average price per room, per construction of room, there's one up in Lanaudière, 42 rooms. They cost $1.7 million per room, $75 million for a 42-room center. Once you get over that, when you look at that, you do a double take, and indeed the minister responsible for the elderly is saying, well, I may rethink these projects if these costs seem to be too high. But the fact is they are too high. And my hat's off to La Presse, and more specifically to Maxime Bergeron, the columnist at La Presse. He did a deep dive today on the whole issue of the funding for these things, the expenses for these things. And he discovered that for the government funded, the publicly funded ones, about half the expenses exist in the form of administrative costs.
Wow. In
terms of planning, in terms of architects, in terms of permits, in terms of whatever, preparatory work, all of that. Half of it is administrative work. The actual shovels in the ground is the other half. But no, that's not all. He goes out and talks to a few people in the private sector who decided to turn or renovate privately run homes for the elderly. Somehow, amazingly, Aaron, they were able to do it at an average price of, wait for it, $300,000 a room. Yeah. So, between $300,000 and 1.7, there's a bit of a spread. Now, Aaron, you and I and our listeners went through something called the Charbonneau Inquiry, where the whole idea was, why does everything cost so much, and all the costs go through the roof? And the suggestion was, and indeed the accusation was, that there was corruption within the construction industry that has to be dealt with. And I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form in this particular instance that there's any corruption involved here whatsoever. But all that said, we have a real problem on our hands because it seems to be a built-in part of life in Quebec, that if something is supposed to cost $10 million in the public sector, it ends up costing $20 million. Oh, by the way, these maisons des aînés, they're not going to be available on time. They'll be late by about 2 years. So this is where we are. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's looking after our increasingly numerous population of elderly in Quebec, this government does not have a clue about what it's doing. And remember, this was a main sort of central DNA promise that the CAQ made when they were first campaigning. And even this is an absolute disaster. I got to tell you, you would be hard-pressed to find so small a group of people who know so little about doing anything whatsoever.
You know, I just thinking to myself as you run through this, Jim, about how much ammunition this government has provided to everyone running against it come the next provincial election. It's actually going to be pretty amazing. And we still have roughly a year left to go. So
it's going to be amazing, but don't forget the front runners right now think that by leaving Canada, everything is going to be fine. So, you know what? Don't sleep too sound.
Well, maybe that changes too. Who knows? Maybe the Liberals come back. We'll see. Real quick, I did the question today just after we started about what you think of this student boycott over cell phones. What's your take on this?
I laughed out loud when I heard about it. I wouldn't worry too much about it, though. I think the walkouts will fall through, if only because it's supposed to rain tomorrow.
Someone texted me when I first asked this, hey, by the way, reminding those who want to boycott means you show up at the place that you're upset with, not stay home and sleep till noon.
Yeah, I'm going to stay home and scroll on my phone, man.
Just until they take it away. James Mennie over
at the power
at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.